Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you some updates for the Learn platform. So typically on Canvas you're going to have a link that's going to go to something like My Homework and then the assignment name. Now if by any chance you've had a course with me previously that shares the same assignment or previous semesters, you'll get a list of these courses to select from. Most often it'll just direct you to your current course's assignments. So for me, I'm just going to be demonstrating this from IT 202, 450, M23. M is for middle, for summer, doesn't matter. So I'm redoing this semester, this summer semester that I'm made some other updates because there's been some changes with how GitHub stores its URLs. So I had to quickly make a fix, and I'll be talking about that in this specific lesson or topic. Okay. So just to highlight all the features in case I delete the previous update video, when you first join an assignment, you should have an assignment submission automatically created. It might take a second, but you should see submission 1 and the time it was created. Now you can only have one submission open at a time. The only time submissions will quote unquote close is when the grader applies a grade. So you'll have this as ungraded, this should be then marked as graded. Or if you choose to close it. Closing it basically kind of deletes it, but without deleting it. Closing it says you don't want us to look at that assignment and it'll let you do a new one. Now, the only time you'd really need to close one is if I have to go and update something in the original assignment submission. So the way it works is the submission kind of clones what that specific assignment is in case any changes occur, it doesn't break that submission. So if there's a significant change, you'd have to close the current submission and then just reopen a new one. So you'd be able to click down and click new. Usually it doesn't happen too often, so most often your single submission is fine. Now you can keep updating the submission as often as you want until the grader applies a grade, basically, and technically speaking at least. And whatever happens, we will see. Now, the assignment's broken down in a couple things, but first I want to make note of this save bar. So you have a couple instances showing a save bar. You have at the top here, you have newly added on the left here, and then at the bottom, you have your save bar down here. Now, this is going to show you if the assignment is currently saved. There is an auto-saving mechanism, so anytime you are working on your assignment, as soon as you leave focus on that element, it will attempt to do an autosave. There are also other items that trigger autosave, but an autosave cannot occur more than every 30 seconds. It's just something I built in. Now, if an autosave is pending, it'll keep checking every 5 seconds to see if it's ready to save. So at the minimum, you should have within every 30 seconds an autosave occur. Now, if you're still pending for an autosave, you should be able to manually save down here at the bottom. And once you see green, green means it's good and your assignment should be okay. If it's red or doesn't show green, then that's where you want to look into something. Okay, I already filled this out for the previous video, so I'm going to redo this a little bit to kind of demonstrate. Or I'll close it. Maybe we'll see that. Okay, so first let me close this one and I'll create a new submission. Okay, should be bright. Oh, I guess it didn't clear everything up. Okay, that's fine. It usually clones whatever's the latest that you have. So new submission here. On the left side, there's quick navigation. So if you need to jump down to a specific item or task, it more or less does a decent job of doing so. If you need to scroll right to the bottom or all the way to the top, sometimes the assignment submissions kind of get a little bit long. So I just wanted to create that shortcut. Also, it'll change color as you're doing work. It'll let you know if you fully filled in something, if it's partial, or if you missed something. So at a glance, you should be able to determine if you're mostly done. So that's the new addition here. Now it's going to show you your course, it's going to show you the assignment name, and how many points this item is worth. Then down here you have a set of instructions. The instructions are usually just guidelines on how to approach certain things. They may have a few extra things in addition to what's required, but this is kind of steps for you to follow to make it easier to do the assignment. Then down here we have a desired branch name. So if this is early in a semester and you don't really know what a branch is yet, don't worry too much. It's part of the GitHub process, git/GitHub process, where we're going to make a timeline to track this specific assignment. So every assignment will have its own designated branch. Try your best to make the branch name match. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's just in case we ever need to go hunting down for it, or if you need to go back and look for it. Okay, then you have different deliverables. Deliverables will have their point value next to them, and then the deliverables have a number of subtasks. So your typical tasks are going to be screenshot evidence, open-ended submissions, URLs, and I think that's the gist of it for now. Most subtasks will have a checklist if it's not obvious what the task is. So when there's a general subtask, I usually have a checklist that you and the grader will use to determine, how many points you'll be getting. For the most part, you can take the number of points and divide it by the number of tasks, and that's what each value is worth. I do have the ability to change the point weighting here, but I usually just leave it as a 1. So this one is going to ask for the Wakatime stuff with the API key set up properly. Don't share the API key here. It's going to ask for the MySQL related extension. And in this case, since I'm looking at IT202, this is going to be a generic video for all classes, but since I'm looking specifically at IT202, I'm going to ask for a specific PHP extension. So the objective for this assignment is to show evidence that all that exists. Now let me just clean this out. Hopefully it'll let me delete it. Okay. And I will demonstrate how we can do that. So I'm going to go to my VS Code. I'll go to my extensions, and I have Wakatime here. I wish I could sort a little bit better, but that's fine. I have Wakatime, and I got to see where my PHP stuff is. I didn't have it enabled, so let's enable. So since this is going to be multiple images, I will take multiple screenshots. You can condense things in screenshots as long as you can explain in the caption. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to just do my shortcut for Windows to grab a screenshot. Now, the thing that changed real recently, like today, as of this video, because of the GitHub change, is now for the images, you'll have 2 tabs. You'll have Upload, where you can drag and drop or paste files, or you can still use a URL. The URL is only going to support public-based images. It does have support for the new way that GitHub changes the URL, but you can't use that anymore. So now the new thing is to upload items to my platform directly or a third-party image service. I think people have used Imager before, but you don't need to do that. You can just upload it to the platform. The reason why this happened is because on May 10th-ish, I think is when it happened, GitHub changed how the URL is generated. The URL, when it's accessed, generates a temporary access URL to the resource. Downside is that URL expires. So if you've uploaded it, I don't know how long it lasts, a very short time. Then by the time the grader comes back to the platform, or if you go back to your GitHub, it's not visible anymore. So we can't kind of use this. So now the approach is to drag and drop or paste your files here. Now just make sure you click into the box if you're planning to paste. Since I have it on my clipboard, I can just do Control V. It's going to upload it to my service. It's also going to kind of compress it, and it's going to show you a little thumbnail and a little example. The green background is saying that everything's all good, and once it is saved, it should be kind of permanent. So this is showing that I have my PHP IntelliFence, for example. Alright, so now that I have my image uploaded, I would set the caption saying showing PHP Intel. Let me see if I can spell IntelliFence extension, and then that would be one screenshot. So I would add a new screenshot, go back to my VS Code, and it's looking for MySQL, right? MySQL, and then I'll do Wakatime. So MySQL, show that I have this. I can just paste it in. It'll upload, showing MySQL extension. Oh, so I can, I also have a way to associate checklists. Since I updated a previous assignment, it already has some checklist items associated. So let me just associate them here. Good. That's good there. And then Wakatime. So Wakatime might be a little bit tougher. I don't know, let me see if I can get it. It's down here. So if you see a 0 or if you see, what do you call it? Any time, then this is a valid screenshot in this case. Oops. Let me get the caption out of the way. You upload, paste that, and showing Waka time has some time tracked. Means API is valid. And that's going to address my Waka time stuff. Good. Then we have screenshot showing your database and initial tables. There's no initial tables, so this is an old assignment. It's fine if it's empty. So if it's a little misleading, it's okay. You don't have the ability to do that. I even still have the old typo here because I forgot to adjust it. But the main thing is show the database name, UCID, and that connection. So again, we go to our database. I don't have my UCID. I mean, I do. I have a bunch of tables because I've already done this, but the main part that I'm looking for is that we have this. So it shows my UCID. I'll paste that here. And it's showing I have my database connected properly. This is from the VS Code left panel, show database name. Since it addresses both, I can assign both tasks to it. And I'm all good. Now, as you can see, it's been a short amount of time since it last autosaved, so it's still pending an autosave. It'll either keep ticking in the background every 5 seconds, as I mentioned, or the next time I edit something, it'll apply. Talk about what you learned during this module, anything interesting new. I learned how to use Git, the Learn platform, and how to configure my working environment. Good. Did you have any issues? If so, how did you deal with them? Usually when I have this type of prompt, I'm not really looking for no issues. I know you guys are learning and you're most likely going to have some problems. So don't just take the shortcut and say no issues. Actually talk about the problems. So I had issues due to the new GitHub URLs expiring and had to fix things. Obviously not your issues, but my issues. Then add the pull request link. So most assignments that we're doing are going to have pull requests. Since I'm just doing this for sake of example, I'm just going to grab a random pull request link. So if I go to my GitHub, you guys would want to use the one that's related to this actual assignment. You generate that by pushing the branch to GitHub and then opening up a pull request. I already have a pull request open, so I'm just going to pull it from my practice file. And this is the link at the top for this. Yours likely will end in number 1. The number doesn't really matter, it's just a number of pull requests you have for the specific repository. So I'm going to go down here and paste that URL. I already had the URL defined before, I'm just going to delete that example, but if you need to have multiple URLs, you can include multiple URLs. Okay, so as you fill things out, it should give you an estimate of how much you're getting based on what you filled in. If you've accomplished each checklist item appropriately, then it should be an easy grade of getting that 10 out of 10. It's basically just matching up your checklist items with what's being asked for. So link is valid, it is valid, collaborator access has been sent. We'll see when we go and try to grade this. If we don't have access, we can't grade it. If we do have access, then you get credit for this. And all assignments, or at least 99% of assignments, will be following this kind of concept of this worksheet. This worksheet is going to be filled in. This is what the grader is going to use to grade things, but there's still one more step you'll have to do. So at the bottom and at the top, you'll have either copy Markdown to clipboard or you'll have download Markdown file. Either of these options are valid. I'm just going to take a shortcut for sake of time in this video, where I'm going to upload it directly to GitHub. But what you guys want to do is you'll likely want to go to your local, create a new file, make sure the file name ends in .md, paste the content or use the download file from here, and do git add, git commit, git push to push it to the current branch. Only when you're done with everything do you want to go and actually merge the branch you're working on. But I'm going to do this directly in my practice branch. I'm not going to merge because I don't want to break wherever I'm merging it. So this is all for example. So copy Markdown to clipboard. I'm going to go to my practice branch because that's what I'm just using for now. I'm going to go to add file, create new file, and I'm going to do module1.md. It has to have .md, otherwise it's not going to render properly. So we just paste that content in. You don't need to edit anything in this content. You don't even need to know what it is. This is just generated from my tool. The minimum is just preview everything. So this is what the grader is going to see. This is what I'm going to see. And we're going to access things through this grading link. The rest of the stuff you see here is strictly for your visual purpose. And when you, or potentially if you decide to share this with anyone else after the class, like an interviewer, friends, family, whatever. This is meant for you guys in a relatively organized way to show what you've done over the semester. Now, I know it's not the best looking thing. Unfortunately, GitHub Markdown is very limited. You can't use any styling. So this is the best I can get with what limited tools I have. But this is what you guys will have available for every single assignment. So I'm going to commit these changes. And it's going to generate that markdown file. Now, typically, you would merge this into your main branch or your dev and prod branch later on or whatever, but you will eventually put it into a branch that's not this homework branch. And you'd click this link, you'd copy this, and you'd go to Canvas. So I already did it for another video. I'm just going to do a new attempt. I paste the link here. You don't need to leave any comments here unless there's a specific reason for a comment or the grader tells you to leave a specific comment. Situations vary, so in general, you don't really need to put anything else. But click the submission, you should get your confetti, ninjas, whatever Canvas decides to pop up, and you're all set. Now, just to wrap up some confusion that pops up, if you go to your submission details, you guys typically will not see a preview here. It's going to show as like a 404 error or something, and that's 100% expected and normal. The reason for that is because Canvas does not have access to your private repository, so it can't show a preview. That's okay. But if I or the grader goes in, we're typically going to open a new tab, and that's going to give us access to the file where we're going to go and click in to do the grading. So make sure you submit that correct link. As long as the link is there, it will work and you're not going to have any issues. As long as you can see things here, it'll show you when it's generated and you can scroll through and verify. Now make sure everything shows up properly and you should be fine. So again, just a little reminder, the main purpose of this video is to highlight the new way that images are working. So we have upload instead of URL, but I left the URL there in case you happen to use another third-party service. We can no longer use the previously preferred method of loading the images to a GitHub comment or a GitHub issue and using that link because GitHub decided to change how they're using the URLs. If you don't want to know why, you can just stop watching the video now, but the reason most likely is because they don't want to encourage people to use this as an image hosting resource, and they're trying to combat ways to go against it. So even though this is going to be content hosted on the GitHub platform, the way the image gets loaded in on my site, it's kind of getting treated as like a image hosting service. So it's impacted by that change. So right now, everything will be uploaded, and my platform should be sufficient for hosting these things. I just was trying to refrain from that because in general, you're not going to have my platform to do GitHub work in future classes or in the job world. So I want to get you guys used to uploading these images to GitHub. Now, I highly encourage you to still upload these resources to GitHub. It's going to be good practice for later and for classes like 490. But unfortunately, my platform no longer has access to those things because of that change. If you guys have any other issues or troubles or whatever that's not covered in this video, or if refreshing or clearing browser cache does not show this, please let me know and I'll try to work with you to figure out what's going on. Otherwise, take care and see you guys in the next video or next lesson. Thank you.